Welcome to the deep dive. If you're in service design, today we're jumping straight into the Service Design Global Conference, SDGC 25, specifically day 2. We're focusing on that really buzzed about session from Chase, Service Design at Chase, a seat at the table.
Yeah, that was a big one. It really laid out how design actually functions and, thrives inside a huge financial tech company like Chase. We're pulling out the key stuff shared by Chief Design Officer Miki Van Cleave, though she was ill. Her insights were delivered by folks like Dr. Tanya Browning, Will Coombs, and Brandon Anderson, real operational leaders.
And the growth numbers alone are pretty staggering. They went from about 300 designers to almost 1,000 in just 3 years. That's, what, a 250% increase? That really signals a serious commitment, isn't it? More than just hiring people.
Absolutely. It shows real institutional buy-in. And key to understanding that scale is where design actually sits organizationally. It's within their product, customer experience, and technology group. But the engine, really, is this collaborative structure they call the quad.
The quad model.
Yeah, or four in a box sometimes. It's basically technology, product, design, and data and analytics leads all working tightly together.
Okay, the quad.
Yeah.
Sounds great on paper, right. But, for those of us in big companies, how do they stop that turning into just more meetings and friction?
That's a fair question, and it seems to come down to a mindset shift, really. The quad structure gives design leaders real strategic influence. They have visibility at very high levels. Dr. Browning, for instance, sits at the table with the COO who oversees something like 42,000 people.
Wow, okay.
So to make that work, you have to stop thinking of yourself just as a design leader. You need to become more of a business leader who happens to be a really strong design practitioner.
Yeah.
See the difference?
I do. So what does that look like in practice? What's different about how that person operates in, say, that COO meeting?
Well, they're connecting design not just to customer needs, but directly to the business levers, the tech realities. They understand that influence comes from delivering outcomes, not just design artifacts. In fact, they explicitly use service design as a kind of strategic guardrail to keep the organization from falling into what they cheekily called the 7 deadly sins of operational design.
The 7 deadly sins. Okay, now, I'm interested. This sounds really practical, something you listening can maybe apply. Let's maybe focus on a couple that really hit home for scaling design. How about gluttony?
Right, gluttony. In their context, this means over-designing, falling into feature feasts where you just keep adding stuff, or getting lost in endless exploration, like, say, mocking up 50 complex target state ideas when the organization can barely handle implementing 5 right now. It's about pacing growth realistically to build trust, not just dreaming big without grounding.
That makes sense. Wasting effort and losing credibility. Okay, what was the second sin they highlighted that's relevant here? You mentioned pride.
Yes, pride. This is about valuing the design process or the ritual for its own sake, rather than the actual outcome it delivers. They warned against being the internal design police, insisting, we must use the double diamond framework here, even if a quicker, leaner approach might actually solve the business problem better or faster. Flexibility is key. Matching the method to the mission, not forcing the mission to fit your favorite method. Influence comes from results.
That focus on mission, on results.
Yeah.
It ties back to what you said about service design tackling complexity at Chase, right?
Exactly. A core value proposition for their service design teams is piecing together these incredibly complex end-to-end customer journeys. Think about home lending or buying a car or just banking. These were often siloed. Service design creates that unified through line for the customer. And doing that effectively requires humility, which they framed as servant leadership. That's the antidote to another sin, wrath, basically, organizational frustration. Focus on solving your partner's problems.
Humility and servant leadership, which also means patience, I guess. Understanding the sheer scale you're working with.
Precisely. When you're dealing with 420 million customer calls a year, you have to understand the context. You can't just chase every shiny new idea or big swing design, which they connected to the sin of lust, interestingly. Sustainable impact comes from compounding steady wins, little improvements that add up across that massive scale.
So, boiling it down, scaling design successfully, especially in a big, regulated place like Chase, it's about being strategic, sidestepping those internal pitfalls like gluttony and pride.
And consistently showing measurable impact that actually moves the needle on business problems. It's about earning that seat at the table through contribution, not just assertion.
It really shifts the perspective from just doing design to being an effective business leader who uses design strategically.
That's a great way to put it.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Chase session highlights from SDGC 25.